going to learn about the Biny Pen tool, probably the most important and widely used tool in your Illustrator tool belt. So let's go ahead and open up Illustrator and take a look. I can spend an entire class just talking about the pen tool. It can be the most complicated thing to learn. It's very finicky. It's difficult. It's like learning how to write all over again. It's not as intuitive as you would think. So let's go ahead and start. Here's the pen tool right here. If you press and hold down, you'll have other options, but we'll get to that later. So let's go ahead and just do the regular pen tool. And so let's go ahead and click. And so it creates a point. And what it'll do, it'll ask you to create another point to create a shape. And so without clicking, I can kind of go around and figure out how long or short I want to have this object. So we're going to make this line, let's say, right here. So let's go ahead and click again. It's going to create another point, but it's going to keep asking you to create points as long as you want. So if we just want to make one simple line, say, okay, I don't want to make another point, go ahead and press Escape. And it'll end right there. We'll press this selection tool, and here we are. We made a line. So that's simple enough. So go ahead and pause the video, create a couple of simple 2-point lines. Let me create one more here for you real quick. You'll take the pen tool, click once, and let's cross over here, click again. And then whenever you're done, go ahead and press Escape, and it'll go ahead and end your shape, and press the selection tool. So go ahead and just pause the video, take about 5 minutes, create a bunch of lines. It doesn't sound exciting, but just like learning how to draw, you got to draw the letter A 100 times before you get it right. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so now that we created lines, let's create something a little bit more complicated. Let's select our pen tool again. Let's do a square. So we're going to go ahead and press our mouse, and then we're going to create our line. But instead of pressing Escape, we're going to continue to draw a shape. And when we get back to the original first point, it's going to have a little symbol. Let me zoom in and show you. So it's got this little circle. That means you're going to close the shape. You're going to make a complete shape when you click on the original point again. So when we click on that, you have a perfectly closed shape. So if we go like this and switch the color, go ahead and remove the stroke there. You just made a solid box. Not exactly the best box in the world, so that's why they have the shape tool, so you can create perfectly sized boxes. But we're going to do more with the pen tool than just create simple boxes. So I want you to pause the video, do the same thing you did with the line, but go ahead and do the square just a few times. Okay, so let's see what else we can create. You can do more than just straight lines. You can do curved lines. And how you do that is, let's go ahead and delete that. Select the pen tool. Let's go ahead and click on our first point, and let's make a semicircle. So we're going to go down here, make it about that much in length. What we're going to do is you're going to click on your mouse and you're going to continue to hold it. And what you're going to do is you're going to move your mouse while you continually press that button, and you're able to move it around, shift it, and make all sorts of shapes. So once we're happy with this shape, we're going to click once off of the original click, and here you go. So let's go ahead and make this a stroke. So this is a fill and this is a stroke. We're going to go over this in another video. Go ahead and switch. I'm just doing that so you can kind of see the line I'm creating. So now what's going to happen is it's going to ask you to make your next point, and it's going to also add a curve to it. So let's make a circle, but I don't really like that angle, so I'm going to press and hold, and I'm going to adjust the angle to how I want it. Then I'm going to release. And then without pressing anything, it's going to start asking me for the next point. So let's go ahead and close this up, make a complete shape. I'm going to press and hold the button and try to make this a circle as best as I can. I know that's incredibly horrible. I'm telling you, the pen tool is a little bit of a beast to learn, but once you get it, it's easy. So now we can manipulate. If you press this is the direct selection tool. It's next to your regular selection tool. And what the direct selection tool is going to enable you to select just one point on. We made 3 different clicks, 3 different points on the shape. It's going to allow us to click on it and shift different individual points. So we can make this a little bit closer to an actual circle. And these lines, you can actually click on the end of this long line coming out, and you can make adjustments. And so you might want to pause the video, spend about 10 minutes creating circles, creating shapes, and see it's already looking a little bit more like a circle. Of course, there's tools out there where you can make a perfect circle much easier than using the pen tool. So now that you've had some time to kind of mess around, and you're going to spend at least a couple of hours messing around with the pen tool to really learn it. Let's create a complex shape that we would use, let's say, in a logo. So let's go ahead and click on our pen tool, and let's make kind of a letter T. So we're going to click once, click again. We're going to kind of create our shape. Let's kind of make it a little interesting looking. And then we're going to close up our shape right there. So you see that circle icon. We just finished and closed the shape. So let's go ahead and reverse this, and we're going to fill it in. That's kind of our funky looking T for a logo. That looks ugly, but just an example. And so what happens, let's go ahead and zoom in on this T, on the shape. And let's click on that direct selection tool. And when we do that, it's going to show each individual click or point that I created in the shape. And now we can edit this shape. So now I can kind of make it a little more even with here. And this is the direct selection tool. Let's kind of make that not as funky looking. So creating our T. Okay. And down here. And let's say I have this angle down here. Let's say I want to create the same angle and effect up here. And that's too long. No problem. We could just even keep the same angle. And there you go. We just made a T. So let's say we want to add some curves to this T. We just don't want to have a bunch of right angles. So let's go ahead and click on this curvature tool. So it's right there, and you're going to see these circles. It's going to allow you to kind of slightly manipulate this a little bit. A lot of different options. You can actually add a different point. They call it an anchor, but I like to call it a point. But if you click on this Add an Anchor tool, we can actually add different points to this document. We can add thousands, and you can have lots of detailed manipulations here. So if we do the direct selection tool, we can do all sorts of different things here. You can also subtract this delete anchor or delete point, and we can delete all those with direct selection. And this is going to take some time to learn. It's a complicated little tool. So we're going to delete all those that we just did. We don't need that many. There's kind of your standard T. Let's see what else we can create. Let's go back to pen tool. Let's do a wavy line. Let's kind of practice doing that. So we're going to click once, click again, make another point, and I'm going to hold that click and start creating some lines here. So now I'm going to reverse this just so I can see my stroke. So it looks like kind of a wave thing going on here. Let's create another one right underneath. And create a wave effect. So I'm just following kind of the same path there. That's kind of cool. So kind of just practicing with curves. Let's see what else we can do. Let's make a triangle. We'll click up top, click on the bottom, and we're going to complete and close our shape. So let's see what we can do here. Anchor point tool. So you can kind of see how you can just play around with these different tools and how you can add curvatures to shapes. So this is your anchor point tool. Take your anchor or point, as I like to call it, and shift it around and edit it. Grab that line. So you kind of see how people make symbols for logos very easily using the pen tool. So that almost looks like Star Trek. So, so you make all sorts of shapes. So let's make another shape. Pen tool. This is going to be a lot of experimenting. I mean, when I learned the pen tool, I just spent hours just doing exactly this, making shapes that didn't make any sense, and then tried to manipulate them, create different shapes. So like that is ugly. So go ahead and delete that. So just experiment with the pen tool. A lot of things that you can do with it in terms of making symbols. You can make lots of, when you want to make a new shape, just click in a new area. And you can make shape after shape. Make rays. You can use perspective. You can create things with perspective. Just like this. And complete your shape. And then we'll learn in another video how you can use this fill tool. Change colors, just like that. And you can also use your shape tool to create perfect shapes, just like that. So that's the pen tool. I'll probably have another whole video series on the pen tool if you want to learn even more, but a lot of it is just playing around, figuring it out, and just playing like you're a 3-year-old kid with some crayons and a blank piece of paper. You just have to experiment, knowing that these are kind of the two tool buttons that you need, and with this being the other buttons you use in terms of selecting the anchors or the points. And that's really it. So we'll move on to the next thing.